Then they'll do a national anthem, so it's a dip.
Yeah.
Back up again, and then you two go that side of it, and us two go this side of it.
So there's not going to be any words of command then by the sound
well,
of it?
I will.
All right, you do it then.
You let me do us, I don't know about everybody else.
Lovely, that's fine.
Yeah. That's it, something else forward.
Yeah.
The only century that we have to...
They're doing well, I know. They're doing well just now. It's just at the moment they get the play from what we put on. I don't know how they'll get up to that.
This side.
So what's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So pack up your troubles and get back. Smile, smile, smile.
I'll be giving the parade. Well done, Solly. Good lad, Shawnee. Slow match, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you just stand, remain standing for the national anthem, please.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Members of the Palestine Veterans Association, the British Palestine Police Association, invited guests, family and friends. I'm very pleased to welcome you all here today. Today's reunion marks the 20th year that some of you, the veterans of Palestine, have gathered to remember and pay your respects to those comrades and friends that paid the ultimate price while serving their king and country and who lie in the country you all still call Palestine. The first reunion of Palestine veterans was organised by Jerry Burr and took place at Bath Cathedral in May 1998. When I was writing this, I did wonder whether we have anybody here today that attended that event 20 years ago. Yes? Does it feel like 20 years or does it feel longer? As the years pass, the dynamics of our gatherings sadly change. Inevitably, numbers dwindle, which is why we've made the difficult decision to make this reunion the last formal gathering that will take place here at Eden Camp. Whilst this will be the last, the third Saturday in May will still continue as Palestine Day at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire, and the third Saturday in October will continue to be marked here at Palestine Day here at the museum. In between, we shall still continue to produce and send out the PVA newsletter in September. So whilst this is the last formal parade with a band and you ladies and gentlemen parading, we will continue on this day in October. At this point, I would like to address anyone who may be visiting the museum, seeing the gathering and wonder what was going on. The oldest member of the congregation that you see are members of the Palestine Veterans Association. They all served with British military or with Palestine police between 1945 and 1948. As I mentioned, this will be their last gathering together when they remember friends and comrades that they left behind in Palestine. One of the main reasons being is the youngest member on parade today is 89 years old. That is the youngest member. I've already mentioned that this year marks the 20th anniversary of the first gathering of veterans of Palestine, but 2018 also marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the British governance of Palestine, which was established by the League of Nations in July 1922, with a mandate taking effect the following year. The mandate ended in May 1948, and British forces withdrew, sadly leaving behind 784 of their comrades in 2 Commonwealth War Grave Commission cemeteries located near Haifa and Jerusalem in what is now Israel. Many of the veterans that you see today have travelled a considerable distance to attend this short service, which I think clearly highlights the importance that they place on paying their respects to the comrades and friends who lost their lives between August 1945 and June 1948, undertaking what was officially referred to as a peacekeeping mission. Their presence here today is testament to the comradeship and loyalty that these men and women still hold for the mates that they had to leave behind. So back to you, the veterans. I've had a number of members who have contacted me today, passing their apologies. Unfortunately, due to ill health or mobility issues, they were unable to join with you. Amongst the list of apologies are Stan Bent, David Corbett, John Evans, David Mitchell, John Nisbet, Alan Reid, John Saxby, and Keith Shenton from the Yorkshire branch of the British Palestine Police Association. Also Leslie Morgan, who normally provides the prayer here at the service. I also received a message from Bernard Cribbins, who undertook his national service with the Parachute Regiment in Palestine, and who has mentioned his time in Palestine in his recently released autobiography, Bernard Who? Some of you may have seen the article in last weekend's Sunday Times, referring to our reunion today. It is most ironic that for 70 years, nobody has wanted to know your story. And yet now we announce that this is going to be the last reunion. Everybody wants to know about it. As well as the Sunday Times, over the course of the week, I've already spoken to Talk Radio and the Sunday Express as well. So hopefully, by the end of this weekend, your story will be known a little bit more by this nation. I've also had a number of approaches from individuals and organisations interested in learning of your experiences in Palestine. They include a chap who's open to write a magazine article about national servicemen in Palestine, and somebody else who's writing a book entitled Information Warriors, The Battle of Hearts and Minds in the Middle East, which is to be published in September next year. The author explained to me that part of the book addresses the British mandate years in Palestine and the shameful way in which those serving in the British forces there were subsequently treated. We also have an Israeli film team on site today who represent the Toldot Yisrael organisation, which is a Jerusalem-based non-profit organisation dedicated recording and sharing the first-hand testimonies of the men and women who helped found and build the State of Israel. They have recorded over 1,100 interviews, including commemorative ceremonies and lectures. If anyone is interested in being involved with or helping out with any of these requests, then please let me have your contact details at the end of the service. Or you can speak directly to the filmmakers themselves. We have Peleg and Nadra. At the beginning of this week, I received an email from a Lieutenant Colonel Nigel Jefferson, who was British military attaché to Israel from 2013 to 2015. He asked me to pass on the following message. The veterans should be told that their service to the nation in such a difficult period was and is not forgotten. During his time in Israel and as an officer in the Royal Artillery, he organised a small memorial service in 2014 to remember one of his predecessors, Lieutenant Colonel G.L. Hildebrand, DSO, and 5 gunners who died as a result of an attack by the Irgun on their camp on the 6th of April 1948. The service took place at the Commonwealth War Graves Commission Cemetery at Kayat Beach, which is situated on the outskirts of Haifa. Lieutenant Colonel Jefferson has submitted a full report of the service, which I hope to print in next year's newsletter. I also received two emails from men who had been children in Palestine. One was from Richard Gibbs. Richard wrote, "I would like to send my best wishes to all surviving Palestine veterans, their families and families of late veterans. I understand from a press article that the last reunion is about to take place. I lived in Palestine as a small child. My father worked for the Mandate government, and our family knew a number of soldiers and Palestine police officers, several of whom I met in later years. One soldier in particular befriended me while we were living in Hebron. I only knew him as Private Rayner, and I've often wondered what happened to him after 1946, when I last saw him. While the conduct of the British in Palestine was not perfect, history has not been kind to them. Most people fail to recognise that soldiers, police, and administrators were generally doing their best in an impossible situation created by others. This applied to my father, a Mandate civil servant who, aged 35, lost his life in the King David Hotel bombing, leaving my mother with 2 small children and expecting another. He and many others paid the ultimate price for carrying out the thankless task they were given. Richard's father was called Brian Gibbs, and he was an assistant district commissioner. He was a civilian. The other email was from John Piper, whose father, also called John, was a military doctor attached to the 6th Battalion Gordon Highlanders. He sent the following: "To the Palestine Veterans Association, remembering your gallant service to all and recalling the experiences vividly. Thanking all ranks for the sacrifice you made. You should not be forgotten. In my prayers and very best wishes, John Piper." Whilst we have always remembered British military veterans during our services, receipt of Richard's message did highlight that we should also remember those civilians who worked alongside military and who put themselves in as much danger as their military compatriots. At this point, I would like to thank family and friends who have acted as chauffeurs and chaperones to bring many of you here today. They include the son and son-in-law of Les Bullen, who have brought Les today to ensure that 3 para are represented. And I can see we've also got a couple of other maroon berries on parade. On a sadder note, we also have a number of family members who weren't in a position to bring their loved ones today, but who are here to pay their respects and remember their loved ones in the presence of those of you that shared and experienced a special comradeship over 70 years ago. They include Nigel Elvidge and his sister Hayley, who attend in memory of their father, Robert. Also Hayden and Caitlin, who are attending the memory of Phil Page. To all you family and friends, please carry on telling people about your relatives that served in Palestine. And please, we would like to see you here in future years, both here and at the National Memorial Arboretum. In a short while, the roll of honour of associate members that have passed away since our last reunion will be read. But before then, I would like to take this opportunity to say a few thank yous. Thanks to Tony Costello for ensuring our standing is on parade today, and the other Tony as well, and indeed to all our standard bearers. Thanks to the York Concert Band. The association with the York Concert Band goes right the way back to, I understand, it was a chap called Les, who was actually a veteran of Palestine, but he was one of your members. And when he came to the first reunion, he said, "Oh, have you ever thought about having a band, Nick? I play for a band." And that's where the relationship between ourselves and the York Concert Band has been formed. And I know they enjoy coming along to this event. Well, I think they enjoy coming along to this event, and I think we can judge that by the number of members that are on performing for us today. So thank you very much indeed, the York Concert Band. So we now come to the memorial part of our service. In Leslie's absence, it forced me to read a prayer. But before then, I'm going to ask Doreen to step up and read the prayer that was written by Jerry Burr, the poem that was written by Jerry Burr, the co-founder of the Palestine Veterans Association. And it was Jerry that, as I've already explained, organised the first reunion at Bath Cathedral 20 years ago. Jerry served in the Royal Artillery, and perhaps when he wrote this poem, he was thinking about Lieutenant Colonel Hildebrand and the 5 gunners that had just been killed by the Irgun.
When I was a lad, late in my teens, I was called to join the line of those in khaki or KD in a land called Palestine. I'd heard about this promised land through Bible class at school. I knew not now who had the job this holy land to rule. Quite soon I learned of Joseph Stern and a group called IZL, whose actions based on selfish greed turned holiness to hell. I lost good friends, too many, and still recall their names, among them Darky Batsman and Bombardier Horace James. They were not lost in battle. There was no chance to fight. Our mates were murdered by a gang who claimed they had a right. Home we came and waited to hear our story told. 70 years and nothing said, and we are growing old. Now here today we gather, comrades as we were then, sharing thoughts and memories of the fallen girls and men. The world still does not want to know of those friends, yours and mine, but we know and we honor those who lie in Palestine.
While she doesn't look to build enough, Doreen herself did serve in Palestine with the ATS. Thank you very much, Doreen. So as mentioned, we now come to the memorial part of our service. In Leslie's absence, it forced me to read a prayer. I know that not everyone here has a religious belief. However, a prayer is really the spoken expression of a thought, and I hope that you will agree with the thoughts which are expressed and can associate yourself with them. Let us pray. Let us pause for a moment to remember those young men and women of British and Commonwealth forces, Palestine police and civilians who worked in support of the military and police, who lost their lives as a result of terrorist violence or accident whilst undertaking their duties and acting the role of peacekeepers in the country that is still known to you all as Palestine. Also their families and loved ones who have endured a lifetime of loss. Let us also spare a thought of prayer for the parents of Palestinian prisoners and the parents of young Israelis undergoing military service, or those who have been imprisoned for refusing to do military service and who have no right of conscientious objection. Let us think of all Palestinians and Israelis who continue to live with the threat of violence and the fear of the other. And finally, 70 years on, let us pray for and remember Palestinian and Israeli children who have never known peace, that they may be safe and not afflicted by military or settler assaults. Thank you. I would now like to hand over to Tony Costello, who will provide the homily. May I ask anybody who is able to stand while the homily is read, and then we will have the act of remembrance, the last post, minute silence, and the reveille. Thank you.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, We will remember them.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to take a seat, please. And can I ask those people who are going to lay wreaths just step forward now? Thank you. The Hymn of Jerusalem.
Did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountain green? And was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen? And in the clouds the lamps divine shine for the light.
Bring me my arrow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, that concludes our service. Remember, this is not the end as such. The Palestine Veterans Association will go on. I thank you once again to the veterans here today for making magnificent efforts to be here, to remember your mates, your friends, your comrades. The 784 that lost their lives between 1945 and 1948. In what many of you said to me, the only thing you knew about Palestine was what you learnt at school at Bible class, the Holy Land. Ladies and gentlemen, till we see you next May or see you next October, thank you very much indeed. Parade should. Parade dismissed. Thank you. Okay, before the members all go start running to the bar, I would like to get a photograph in front of the memorial with the standards. So maybe some of the younger members of the congregation can give us a quick hand getting some seats over there. We're going to get a photograph of everybody together.
Thank you for coming here today.
Oh, yes. Very good.
It's wonderful to see there's still some.
Yeah, right. So we're going to think I wouldn't get it. It's the road being blocked.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. One more coming
between Ribbon and Thursday. I didn't fancy any of the alternatives, but anyway, it's clear it isn't an accident.
Just for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's sad to me,
Sorry. I know you didn't have it.
Can we all move on that? Let's polish you up. Anybody else? Any more for any more? What's wrong with it? Over there. On that side. Do as you're told, you'll signal us. Must be first class.